Hello. So another top bidding tip: reviewing bids effectively. So I've done some work recently with some clients where they've asked me to look at their approach to reviewing bids and train some of their people in effective reviewing. And it was a really interesting experiment trying to focus on that nub of things because there's a few things at play here. So, in terms of making sure that we submit compelling, compliant, winning proposals and tenders, reviewing is absolutely critical in that. But it's right at the very end game. There's a few things that need to transpire, that need to take place in a logical order to get to a good place where reviewing is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, first of all, we need good governance and a process around reviews. And so there's the classic Shipley APMP type stuff, coloured reviews that we tend to subscribe to. I call them by percentages of the way through your bid program so that I don't get sued. But the classics out there of pink, green, red review. So we advocate a pink review at the end of the first 25% of the program to review your strategy, but particularly your solution and storyboards. In our model. We then advocate a red review at about 85% of the way through the program, so a final quality review. But we also advocate a green review, a first draft review, at about 60% of the way through the bid program. And the reason why is we don't want to store up all of the problems for a red review towards the end. It's a good idea. So red review is a bigger meeting, perhaps with your sponsor involved and independent review panel members, 1, 3, 5, 10 people who haven't been working on the bid, but that are experts in the subject matter, so that you get a fresh pair of eyes on the tender. And how many depends on how big, important, complex the deal is. And so that's a big deal. That's up there in the bid manager's life. That's up there in importance, along with the kickoff meeting, as being, two very important aspects of what happens on a bid. The two most important meetings, I guess. But we advocate having a green review where just maybe the bid manager and bid leader sit down and ask for first drafts from everyone and go through them to check that we're in the right direction of travel for every response, that we've got a response for everything in development, nobody's gone off sick or we've got problems or it doesn't work. That the storyboards are panning out. We can see that we're going to have an answer by red review that's of a decent standard to review. Because what we tend to find is if you don't do that and you leave it for a red review, you're just storing up a big problem for later. Whereas if you can catch it at green review, we can support people, we can provide more resource, we can switch people out if they're the wrong athletes. We can deal with problems with storyboards, because 1 in 5 storyboards for responses don't pan out. 1 in 5 case studies don't pan out. It didn't really transpire that way. The client's actually not that happy with us, so we need to swap it out. And the storyboards, we've gone down a rabbit hole, we've misunderstood what the client meant, or there's a clarification comes out that changes things. So we want to catch that with 40% of the bid program left at 60% of the way through, rather than 15, 10 or 5% of the program left later on, depending on how late you leave that red review. So have a process that involves reviews, and there's clear roles and responsibilities around those: pink, green, red, at least a red, but ideally pink and green too. So as I say, have clear roles and responsibilities around those, but also, set yourself up for success. Brief people effectively on their way into these reviews. And then use technology effectively. So there is a school of thought, many clients these days, many of my clients crowdsource comments into a single document in a Teams site or OneDrive or similar, a Google Doc. So they send it out in advance, ask people to put their comments in. Some clients just rely then on those comments. Their bid team just execute on those comments and then just submit the thing. I think that's a bit risky. You might misread it, not take from it what they really meant. People putting comments in under pressure, whatever. So I still say you should have a meeting and work through those comments by exception. So the obvious ones that are typos or whatever, that's fine. Deal with that. But there might be meatier stuff that needs to be dealt with. So, and have good behaviours set out in the kickoff meeting what the behaviours are in that type of review. We can't have particularly senior people putting nasty comments into documents, because everyone can see it, and the people involved may not want to work on bids again. We need to create an environment where people want to be engaged in winning deals, writing bids, and celebrating in the pub. If we tear strips off of people and particularly put nasty comments about their content into documents where everyone can see it, they will run in the opposite direction next time, and that will affect the trajectory of the business over time. So we want the right behaviours around bidding, and particularly reviews. Reviews are a real flashpoint where it can get a bit unpleasant, where people haven't delivered, got the wrong end of the stick, etc. So let's try and manage out the risks, run a decent process, have good behaviours around it. You'll be much more successful. Very best of luck with that.